We have been willing to stand up against him. I'm proud that our state was the first state that defeated him on his wrong-handed travel ban. So we are not afraid to confront
Governor,
Donald Trump
as you speak now, as you're answering,
I think
again,
it's unfortunate.
Pardon the delay, but as you speak now, we have some breaking news that we need to tell you about. The Trump administration is taking its travel ban to the Supreme Court. We're just learning now, and we're going to get our correspondent Ariane DeVogue up. But tonight, the Trump administration lawyers are asking the Supreme Court to allow the president's travel ban to go into effect pending the court's full legal review later this year of lower court decisions that block the travel ban. Again, Governor, I'm not sure if you heard all of that, but what do you make of this new action by the Trump administration? So we don't have the governor. I think the governor, okay. Okay, let's go now to Ariane DeVogue. She is our Supreme Court reporter. Ariane, fill us in on the breaking news.
Well, yes, the Trump administration lawyers have gone to the Supreme Court, and they are asking the court to allow this travel ban to go into effect while the court reviews its legality. And this comes, of course, after that scathing lower court opinion, the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. It said that the ban was likely unconstitutional. In fact, it said that the executive order drips with religious intolerance and discrimination. And the Trump lawyers say that the lower courts are getting this ban wrong. They say it's necessary for national security. They say it is not a Muslim ban. And they say that the president has broad authority when it comes to immigration. So tonight, what's an important number is 5, because it would take 5 justices to agree to this request to allow it to go into effect. And what usually happens is that petitions like this are sent to the full court, and the full court asks the other side for its response, and that should happen in a couple of days.
Okay, stand by, Ariane. I want to, Governor Inslee, are you there? Did you hear what the breaking news is regarding the travel ban?
Yes,
yeah.
I did, yes.
What's your response?
Yes. Well, so far there has been an overwhelmingly powerful and comprehensive decision by multiple courts that the court system could not ignore the truth, and the truth came out of the president's own lips that he intended to implement a travel ban on Muslims. His intent was clear, it was unambiguous, and there's one good thing about our judicial system: it can't totally ignore the truth. And now the president is asking the judicial system of the United States to ignore the absolute truth from his own lips. I don't think they should do that. I don't believe that they will do that. So we're going to continue to pursue justice in this case, which is a continuation of the American ideals of constitutional principles and tolerance for the people of this country.
All right. Thank you, Governor Inslee. I appreciate you joining us here on CNN. And Ariane DeVogue, our Supreme Court correspondent, standing by. So stand by. I want to bring in now Senator Mike Lee, a Utah Republican who's the author of Written Out of History, The Forgotten Founders Who Fought Big Government. I have the book right here. I can't wait to read it. I'm so glad to have you here. It's an opportune moment to have you here. What's your response to the breaking news, Senator?
It's interesting news. It's not entirely uncommon when an injunction has been issued by a court, if someone's seeking review of that decision, to seek to have that injunction stayed while it's under review.
And so it's not a surprise to you that this is happening?
No, not a surprise at all. I'm not sure whether it will be granted. I think there's a decent chance it will be, but it's difficult to predict.
Yeah, the 9 justices will hear that, including the new justice as well. Yeah, I want to talk to you, get your thoughts on what I discussed with the governor earlier, because we talked mostly about clean energy, and we'll talk about that, but also get your response to Russian President Vladimir Putin, what he said about the election. Watch this.
Hackers are free people, just like artists. They wake up in a good mood and paint things. Same with hackers. They woke up today, read something about the state-to-state relations. If they are patriotic, they contribute in a way they think is right, to fight against those who say bad things about Russia.
How do you interpret those comments? Is he defending hacking there, you think?
He's an interesting cat. I don't know exactly how to read that, but it's weird. It's goofy. There was obviously an attempt by people in Russia, by the Russian government, to mess with our election in one way or another. It's not yet clear what, if any, impact that had, but they clearly didn't necessarily mean us well in this.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about the FBI Director, James Comey. You know, he's going to testify next week in open session. If he testifies that the president pressured him to end the investigation into the former national security advisor. What do you think? What happens next?
Well, first of all, if he testifies to that effect, I'm going to have a whole lot of additional questions for him. He was in front of our committee. I sit on the Judiciary Committee in the Senate just a few weeks ago on May 3rd. He testified quite clearly. You know, one thing I have not seen is political pressure to end or to change the outcome of a particular investigation. He said, I just haven't seen that. So if he changes that, if he gives an answer like what you just described, that would be flatly inconsistent with that. I'd want to find out why. Why did he tell us one thing on May 3rd, and why is he telling us another thing now?
Today's senators, it was Patrick Leahy and Al Franken, released letters asking the FBI to investigate the Attorney General Jeff Sessions' meeting with Russia. Are you concerned that the Attorney General may have had additional meetings with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, and that he has not admitted to at this point?
Yeah, look, I have no idea. I would highly doubt it, but I have no idea.
So there's no concern for you?
No. I think he's disclosed what needed to be disclosed. I think he's told us what he knows.
There are other major headlines tonight that I want to discuss with you. We talked about the travel ban. We now want to talk about the Paris. There's so much going on. Sometimes you can't keep up with it, and I'm sure you guys in Washington feel the same way. Talking about the Paris Climate Accord, but condemnation was swift. It came from a number of people, and I want to talk. This is U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers told my colleague Richard Quest, the former U.S. Treasury Secretary. Watch this.
This is the biggest U.S. foreign policy error since entering the Iraq War, and it's one that, unlike the Iraq War, will be felt a century from now.
The biggest U.S. policy error since entering the Iraq War. Why would Summers be wrong about this issue?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's paranoid fantasy. He can't back that up. That's not true. Look, it cannot be the case that anytime one president decides that he wants to enter into an agreement, knowing full well and negotiating that agreement in such a way that he knows he can't possibly get Senate ratification for that as a treaty, that if a subsequent president reverses course, as a subsequent president is entitled to do under that circumstance, because it's not law of the land, it cannot be that that creates a foreign policy catastrophe. That's just wrong.
But if I've heard people say there's no teeth to it, and if there's no teeth, if it really didn't mean anything, and each country got to pick whatever they were going to do with themselves, then why the urgency to back out of something that didn't really matter much? This is according to supporters of the president.
Let's peel back what you mean by no teeth to it. International law generally isn't really toothy. It's something that is observed among nations. I don't think you can say there is no teeth to something in which the United States agrees to contribute many tens of billions of dollars to the Global Climate Fund. I don't think you can say there's no teeth to international agreements generally. So we're dealing here with the relationships between nations. I don't think you can say that's completely toothless or that it has no impact. And if it does have no impact, why is everybody freaking out about it?
Are you concerned about Bob Iger, about the Tesla, Elon Musk, saying the president is wrong, they're backing out, becoming his on his team, right? Advisors on his team. Is that concerning to you that these business leaders are doing that?
It's not entirely surprising to me, given that some people have very strong feelings about that.
But
I get that.
It's not concerning because, I mean, these are big players.
Oh, sure, they're big players. And there are big players who also believe that this is a good thing. There are a lot of people, more importantly, who are hardworking Americans, middle-class Americans who are worried about their jobs, who feel like the president is standing up for them. I think the president was right to put Pittsburgh before Paris, and that's what he did today. I applaud him.
I want to ask you about your book. When did it come out? Did it just come out?
Just came out, day before yesterday.
Day before yesterday, Written Out of History by Senator Mike Lee. Who is, in your opinion, who's being written out of history?
There are a number of forgotten founders who have been written out because their stories are inconvenient. People like Canasatego, the Iroquois Indian chief, who introduced the concept of federalism to the United States. Federalism, this concept embodied in the 10th Amendment that says on most issues we should have government at the state and at the local level. Well, we'll have a few issues that have to be handled nationally. We learned that from the Iroquois, from Canasatego, who taught it to Ben Franklin, who in turn taught it to the other founding fathers.
Are you concerned at all, and I don't know if this is in the book, I haven't read it, about some of the monuments being removed down south? Is that part of being written out of history, you think?
The monuments being removed from down south. So if you mean the 1.35 million acres designated as part of the Bears Ears National Monument in my state, in Utah's poorest county, where we've got...
I mean the Confederate monuments and all of that.
Oh, those
some
monuments.
people believe that they're sort of erasing history by doing that.
In that circumstance, when we remove a monument or remove a statue of someone, that's up to the locality deciding to do it. That's their choice. But if they're going to do that, I think they need to take extra steps to make sure that that person isn't forgotten. Because whether they were good or whether they were bad, when we remove someone's story from history, we avoid opportunities to learn from mistakes they may have made.
We got to talk about a lot, from a travel ban to your book to climate change. Thank you. The book is called Written Out of History, and it's by Senator Mike Lee. I appreciate you joining us here on CNN.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. When we come right back.